All right, our last unit of the first semester, and it is nucleic acids. Remember, we've been talking about nucleic acids a little bit since like August. Remember, nucleic acids are made of nucleotides, and there's two types of nucleic acids. The first one we're going to learn about today is DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. It's a nucleic acid because it's found, remember, within the nucleus of the cell. All right, so today's all going to be about DNA. We'll learn about RNA in a future lesson. All right, so what is DNA? Once again, it stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Where does deoxyribo come from? That's because it has the sugar called deoxyribose. Why is it a nucleic acid? Remember, because it's found in the nucleus of the cell. And it's an acid because, I don't know if you remember, but it has a tendency to release hydrogen, ions, or protons if in solution. All right, so what does it do? It contains your genetic blueprint for all living organisms. So it contains the instructions for growth, development, and reproduction. So what does that all mean? Like this girl over here, she's got light brown hair. Why? Why does she have light brown hair? Oh, because her parents have it. Well, yeah, but her parents passed down her DNA. That's why she has light brown hair. Why does she have blue eyes? Because it's in her DNA for her to have blue eyes. How about freckles? Yes, that too. It's in her DNA to give her freckles. Her skin color. How many fingers does she have? Does she have five? Does she have six? Most of us in our DNA says for us to have five fingers. But there are some people in their DNA says for them to have six fingers. This guy right here, he has what's called a hitchhiker thumb. I got one too. It's in my DNA. I don't stretch my thumb like every day, stretch it to make it do that. It's in my DNA that allows it to do that. So it's your DNA that gives you all of your physical traits. Now, how does DNA actually give you your physical traits like dimples, freckles, skin color, whatever? Well, it has the code to make specific proteins. And it's these proteins that your body makes, whichever. So your DNA has the code for making proteins, and whatever proteins your body makes, that's going to determine the organism's traits. For example, certain proteins will give you brown hair, certain proteins will give you blue eyes, etc. So basically, DNA makes you who you are. All right, so we went over what DNA does. It has the instructions for making you who you are. Skin color, eye color, hair color, how many fingers do you got? Do you have a hitchhiker thumb? All that is stored in your DNA. All right, so now what about the structure of DNA? What does it look like? Well, its shape is called a double helix. So it's kind of like a ladder that's been twisted. So you can see right here, here's your DNA. It's a ladder. So it's got the sides of the ladder where you'd put your hands on the ladder, and it's also got the middle where you'd put your feet. And if you take that ladder and you twist it around like that, you're going to get what's called the double helix. So it's a ladder that's kind of spiral. It's like a spiral staircase. All right, so what is it? It was discovered, the shape was discovered by James Watson and Francis Crick in 1953. Don't think you'll need to know that. Now, you should remember this. We've been doing this since August. We haven't said it in a while, but remember, nucleic acids are made of nucleotides. Remember, carbohydrates were made of sugars. Proteins are made of amino acids. Well, nucleic acids are made of nucleotides. All right, so what's a nucleotide made of? So we're going to need to know this. Three things. It's got a phosphate, which is phosphorus and oxygen, bonded to a 5-carbon sugar called deoxyribose. I'm going to put a D in here because that's the sugar in DNA. That's why they call it deoxyribonucleic acid. And the most important thing, it's got one of 4 different nitrogen bases: A or adenine, T or thymine, C or cytosine, G or guanine. All right, so this is what makes up a DNA nucleotide. So you can kind of see it over here. Now the sides of the DNA is just like it's just showing it as a gray like bar, but in reality there'd be a phosphate here that's bonded to a deoxyribose sugar, and that'll make up a nucleotide right there. That'd be a nucleotide. And then down here there'd be another one. There'd be another phosphate. There'd be another deoxyribose sugar, and those would be bonded together, and that would just keep repeating all the way down the side. So the backbone is alternating phosphates deoxyribose. And same thing over here. There'd be a phosphate, and then there'd be a deoxyribose sugar right here, and that would make a nucleotide. Now check this out. This is probably the most important thing. You can see here's G, the base G, guanine, is bonded to C, cytosine. That's what you need to know. G always goes with C. T always goes with A. I'm going to go over that here in a second. All right, so the three parts of a DNA nucleotide: phosphate, deoxyribose sugar, and the bases: adenine or A, thymine or T, cytosine or C, guanine or G. All right, it's basically the same stuff, but you can see it a little better. Here's the backbone of DNA, the sides. You got two sides. Remember, it's alternating deoxyribose sugar, phosphate, deoxyribose sugar, phosphate, deoxyribose sugar, phosphate. No matter if you're a human, a monkey, a chicken, bacteria, it doesn't matter. The sugar and phosphate is exactly the same. That's not what gives you your traits. It's the order of your nitrogen bases. What's your order? What's the order of your A, C, T's, and G's? Everybody's order of those A, T, C's, and G's are different. And this is what's called your genes. Your a segment of DNA that codes for a particular trait is called a gene. And what gives you your traits, skin color, eye color, hair color, how many fingers you got, whatever, it's all determined by what is your order of A, T, C's, and G's. Because different arrangement of those bases is going to form a different protein. And if you form different proteins, it's going to give you different traits. All right, so you can also see here's where DNA is twisted into its double helix. Now, when you scrunch DNA together, when you scrunch a strand of DNA all together and it becomes visible like this, that's going to be what's called your chromosomes. Chromosomes. So we have 46 strands of DNA in our nucleus of all our cells. 23 came from mom, 23 came from dad. When the DNA scrunches together and becomes visible, they're now called your chromosomes. All right, so that's more of the structure of DNA. All right, one last time. The base pairing rules, also called Chargaff's rules, because a guy named Erwin Chargaff, he's the one that found out that adenine or A always goes with thymine or T, guanine or G always goes with cytosine or C. And he did that by he looked at several different species, like he looked at sea urchins, salmon, wheat, plants. Yes, we're related to plants. E. coli, bacteria, humans, and ox. So for humans, he saw, look, there's 30% adenine. Oh, there's also 30% thymine. And then you look at the guanine and cytosine, there's exactly the same amount. That's because every time there's an adenine on one side, there's going to be a thymine on the other side. If there's a guanine on the left, there's going to be a cytosine on the right side of the DNA. So you need to know that. A goes with T, C goes with G. A couple ways to remember it. The only two-letter word you can make out of those four letters is at. A-T. Now, you can make a three-letter word like cat, C-A-T, but for two letters, at is the only one. Also, if you look at the G and C, if I just add a little line right like that, the C becomes a G. So C's and G's kind of look the same. So G always goes with C, T always goes with A. Write that down in your notes. You're going to need it. Also, right here, you can see right here, here's a nucleotide. We got the base, adenine, with the 5-carbon sugar, deoxyribose. So here's deoxyribose sugar bound to a phosphate. So there's your nucleotide. You put a bunch of nucleotides together, you get nucleic acids like DNA. All right, really quickly, we're up to like almost 9 minutes. Where is DNA found? Remember, it's a nucleic acid. It's a nucleic acid because it's found within the nucleus of what's called eukaryotic cells. So here is a eukaryotic cell, or a eukaryote right here. These are the type of cells that you have, you, dogs, cats, trees, basically everything except bacteria. It's a more advanced type of cell because it contains many organelles that are membrane, that are inside a membrane, like mitochondria here, Golgi body. But anyways, the DNA is found right here in the nucleus of the cell. So you can see this nucleus has a membrane that holds the DNA. Now, this prokaryotic cell up here, it's a bacteria cell. It has what's called a nucleoid. So here's its nucleus. It's just in the cytoplasm of the cell. There's no membrane that's holding this together. It's just basically floating around inside the cell. It's not held together by a membrane. So eukaryotic cells, the DNA is found within the nucleus. Prokaryotic cells, you're not going to do no nucleoid. It's just not inside of a membrane-bound nucleus. All right, just a little summary of the key points. Remember, DNA carries your genetic information. That just means it gives you all your traits: what color your hair, your skin, your eyes, how many fingers you got, how tall are you, do you have freckles, do you have dimples, all that stuff. It's in your DNA. That's what gives you all your traits, your DNA. Remember, its structure is called a double helix, so it's like a ladder that's been twisted around. Remember, it is the order of your nitrogen bases that makes everybody different. So it's, your A, T, C's, and G's. What order are they in? Is it G, T, A, A, G, C, T, or is it T, A, T, G, A, T, C? Everybody's DNA has different order. That's why everybody has different traits. Remember, DNA is made of nucleotides. You can see a nucleotide right here. You got the nitrogen base, a phosphate, and a sugar right there. And then you can see the next right here. There's another nucleotide right there. There's also nucleotides over here on the other side. So DNA is made of nucleotides. Remember, the sides of DNA, the backbone, is made of phosphate and sugar, phosphate and sugar, phosphate and sugar. The inside part of DNA, that's the nitrogen bases. Remember, do not forget, adenine or A always bonds with thymine or T, and cytosine or C always bonds with guanine or G. So you can see right here, if there's a T on this side, there's going to be an A on that side. If there's a G on the left, there's going to be a C on the right. And remember, it guides your cellular processes and your inheritance. So it's basically, that means you got your DNA from your parents, half from your mom, half from your dad. All right, I hope you understood this. I hope you took some notes, because there's going to be a quiz coming up right now, and I'll talk to you next time.